Okay, I'm going to get started, I think. We get started. Welcome everybody who's joining, and I'm sure people are going to flood in. First webinar we've done on our company, Lighthouse. So I'm really, really excited to have Pastor Pierre Spies with us today. So I want to welcome you and thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule. I know you're a busy man, and I'm really grateful that you're going to share some of your experiences through your sporting and ministry career with us. So I really do appreciate it. As I said to you before, we work with the top 1%, basically. So yachting is the people who have got a large net worth. They have their holiday homes on the sea, and we basically are dealing with those people on a daily basis. We
Correct.
are recruiting for their houses, for their boats, and we're dealing with the teams that are pampering to their every need. So we have royalty, presidents, we have sports stars, all of those kind of people is who we deal with. And so when we're putting people onto a boat, it is some of those people need to work together, but they need to have that charisma, that ego, that drive, the similar sort of thing that you would need as a sports personality, I guess. And we want to work them all together. And that's where we find it gets very, very tough. So before we
Right.
start, I'm going to embarrass you with let people know a few of your statistics. You started your career playing for the Blue Bulls in 2005, a team that you captained from 2008 to 2015, earning 119 caps. Pretty impressive. You debuted for the Springboks in 2006 in Australia, and in 2008 you were nominated for Currie Cup Player of the Year, South African Player of the Year, International Player of the Year, and you won South Africa's Most Promising Player of the Year and Sportsman of the Year. In 2009, you were selected for the Springboks to play against the British Lions, and you've played for international rugby teams in Japan as well as France before you retired in 2017 with 52 caps for South Africa. Since you retired from rugby, you've taken a very different path into ministry in CRC under the leadership of our senior pastor at Boshoff. And now you are senior pastor in George CRC, which is where I go on every Sunday, well, most Sundays anyway, so do excuse me for a few. And I stand under your leadership. So I'm really very grateful to be under your leadership. So thank you so, so much. An amazing career and journey dealing with people and teams throughout. So I think I'd like to start the conversation with a big open question. What do you think is essential to making a good team?
Well, thank you, Shelley, and good afternoon, everyone. It's good to have this time with you, and I truly believe that I can drop one or two nuggets that can help you guys in what you want to achieve. So, what makes a good team? Obviously, there's a lot of things that really makes a good team. One of the great privileges of playing sport is you really get to be part of teams that either do really well or and that gives you the experience from things that work, and then you're also part of teams that might have struggled in certain seasons. And again, you can always, hindsight makes perfect sense. You can look at the things that doesn't make or doesn't give you success, or that didn't work in the previous season. But if I have to look at teams that really do well, and teams that have a really great culture, is really what it's all about. And when I say culture, it starts with vision as a group. It starts with what is it we want to achieve. And then it really is about the buy-in of all the players. And if I can put it like this, almost a chemistry between the players, the team members, towards what we want to achieve. And there are so many things, connected to this. So, but if I have to put it down, so it starts with vision, and I think I'll be speaking about that a lot today. As a group, I think your vision is very important, which comes from, in your case, I believe the captain.
Yeah.
And then the captain will also drive the vision. But then what you have to understand is people are your greatest assets. So you have to get the best out of people to help us work as a group. And then I'll speak about that a bit later. Also, when you're part of a team, you do in certain cases, and you do actually sacrifice what you want for what the team wants, which is a big thing. I think a lot of people struggle with, but that's if you want to be part of a great team, you have to live like that, because the team is more important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So as I mentioned already, ego. Sometimes ego can be a bit of a challenge, especially for your instance when you've got people top of their game. How do you balance the confidence and getting that unity within an ego?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting question because in many instances, coaches will choose sometimes a less talented individual over a person that has more talent because I'm saying less talented, but the reality is, let's use an example, the less talented person is better for the team
Yeah,
because it's about the combinations that make for the bigger picture.
yeah,
So I'm not saying you can't let's use the word prima donnas or divas, these kind of things, which are always part of a team, which brings something special to a team, but it also can bring a lot of controversy and unnecessary conflict, etc., all these kind of things, which gives you a lot more drama to deal with.
yeah,
So when it comes to these things, again, I believe it comes from the captain or the person that's in charge. And then it comes down to the people. Do you really want to be part of this team? Do you want to be part of what we are doing here? Do you understand the opportunity that you have? It really is an opportunity. There are many other people that would love to have you an opportunity. And that would create within the team and with everyone in the team a sense of belonging. I want to be a sense of humility and ethic, work ethic, where you can say, well, I do understand the privilege of being here. And I do understand the privilege of being part of this team. Therefore, I submit myself to this team and what we want to achieve rather than just chasing my own goals. In fact, actually, when you do this, you will perform better because it's just how it works. There's blessing where there's unity.
yeah, definitely, 100%. And it's quite interesting because sometimes you have a lot of people who are highly skilled and a lot of experience, but you need those other people to come in and sort of plug the holes to lay the foundation of a team kind of thing. Makes a
Absolutely.
lot of sense. Now, communication is crucial in both sports and yachting, and also in ministry. How can you make sure that there's clear communication in a stressful situation? Would you lean on one person to lead, or do you know how do you deal with stressful situation communications?
Yeah, again, I think hindsight makes perfect sense, and then I think experience plays a big role.
Yeah,
So people that have experience and have faced most pressure situations in the past, so they would know how to deal with most of the things that you would probably
yeah,
deal with or struggle with,
yeah,
unless it is new circumstances. So I would say a great key in communication and preparation actually to create scenarios for
brilliant.
the team. So it's part of team training to say, listen, okay, let's put this scenario on the table. This and this happens. This happens with this client. This is how they respond. How do you respond?
Yeah,
And again, it comes down to what the team actually wants. So there has to be a dynamic and a communication within a team that we all know. Listen, this is the way we do things. This is the way the captain does things. This is our chain of command. This is our line of communication. So if something happens, this is the person I immediately contact, or this is what I would do as an individual. So I think you can prepare as good as you can, as possibly as you can for stressful situations. But then again, you can't prepare for everything. Then you
yeah,
rely on people and their own judgments. And actually, that's where you rely on people's experience.
yeah,
And that's actually where you see how a team works together in a stressful situation, circumstances, things that you don't prepare for. And that's where character is revealed, where teamwork is revealed, where people cover one another, work together outside of their working descriptions. They do things that they're not supposed to do because they're
yeah,
doing it for the team. So
yeah,
stressful situations are great because it shapes a team also.
yeah, definitely. I
It
think we
also
find it a lot on yachts. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and I think it also exposes weakness in a good sense, meaning to show you how you can improve. And I
Definitely.
think if you have a positive outlook, you can always, take the negative situations and stressful situations and you turn it into a positive.
You really touched on something there that I think really relates to yachting, with the fact that we quite often people will join a boat and they don't know what the boss's bad day looks like. So how to deal with the boss when he is like that, or how to deal with him in certain situations, and having that communication laid out isn't always something that's put to the forefront. So you really touched on something that's quite imperative, I think, for the team on board. So we had different skills, different departments, interior, deck, engineering, and galley. How would you unify teams from diverse backgrounds? I mean, especially within a South African rugby team, you've got different cultures, you've got different backgrounds, diversity, and then you went overseas to different countries as well. So how do you try and get those backgrounds of diversity together?
Mm. Again, I think everybody has to understand that they want to be there. If everybody understand that it's a privilege to be part of it, it opens up the doors for conversation and communication. Then what I would, suggest for teams is to really get to know one another.
Yes.
Get into the other person's world, meaning ask them out about their personal life, their history, where they come from, to get a context of people's world. Because when you have a
Yeah.
context and you have an understanding where people come from, you will also understand the way they do things in a better way. You can help them. You have better context to see how they react. And then you can also have greater context to support them. So in a team environment, it is probably the best idea when people get to know one another on a social level. And when I say this, I know that when people think social, they always think there's alcohol involved, but there doesn't have to be alcohol involved in every social environment. So I think what I
Yeah.
mean is, obviously, you're going to have those times, but and then I think, if you really care about people, if you really do care about where people come from, what they've been through, and actually have a love for people. If people know that you love them, meaning you care for them, then they would open up to you and they would trust you more as a teammate. So then they know, listen, but I would like to work with this person. I'm more comfortable working with this person. So it's a very difficult thing, I know, because I'm not sure about the duration of time that people spend on a yacht. I'm thinking, is it like a year or what?
Give or
At a
take,
time.
yeah. Some people longer, some people shorter, about that
Yeah,
roughly.
so it's a difficult thing in reality because you have a bunch of people that come together only for a short while.
Yeah.
But I do think the captains, if they establish a culture, as time goes on, you can refine it.
Yeah.
And then you have a certain way of doing things. And then the people you recruit, you can start to identify the earlier level to see this. Okay, but these people will fit in here,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. So it's difficult when you have a team only for a year because they have to
Yeah.
get to know one another, but it's possible.
I mean, when we spoke before, sorry to interject, we spoke before about maybe spending 15 minutes each around the table and getting to know each other, giving your story, giving a bit of your story as someone joins. That was quite a profound thing to me. So when
Yes.
people join boats, they don't necessarily take that time with the new person. It's like, hi, I'm Shelley, I'm Chief Stew, I'll speak to you about uniform in a minute or whatever, and off you go. So you kind of don't have that time, which I thought was quite interesting. It's something that I think would be helpful if you did new crew member comes, get to know them properly, 15 minutes
Yes.
in the crew mess with everybody, which I think is
Yes.
amazing, definitely. And you've adapted your leadership style within sports, within ministry. You had to deal with certain individuals on your team in sport, and now you're dealing with very different people within ministry, I'm sure. How do you sort of go through that? How do you get through this adaptability, and how do you sort of navigate that?
Look, I think all of us are constantly learning. I think the most important thing is to have a growth mindset, to know your strengths and your limitations. I think it's actually better to know your limitations, and then to function within that, and then use the experience that you've had, and obviously being part of sports teams at the Bulls and at the Springboks. The exposure and the experience is of tremendous value
Yeah,
when you work in life, and even for myself now working in the church. So working with people is something you're going to do for the rest of your life, unless you are an IT or all these kind of coding and you're in front of a screen the whole time. So, but And I think, you have to learn also to love working with people. And you have to be in a place where you should be. Because what I mean by saying that is, if you are in a right position and in the right team, if I say this, you know that you should be there.
Yeah.
Then you can do, you have the appetite to do it. And you have to adjust because you know what you're busy uh, establishing and what you're building. So, and that's why it's very important for every person when they come onto your yachts and boats. They have to, I know sometimes people are still figuring themselves out, but they have to want to be there.
Yeah.
They have to want to be there and understand the privilege it is. And so working with people is always difficult. And that's why experience is your greatest asset. So if you've worked with people in reality, you work with different cultures, different tribes and tongues from all over the world. You have some kind of idea how people are wired.
Yeah.
And then I believe as a leader, if you really care for people on a personal level, when the team knows the leader cares for them on a personal level, they will go to war for the leader.
Yes, that's profound. That's given me goosebumps, I'm not gonna lie. It really has given me the
So
goosebumps.
yeah, so people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. We all have heard that before, but that really is the reality. So if you as a leader, team leader, really care for people and not just about performance, this is very important. So we all want to achieve things and you want to achieve targets and sales, but when you work with people and you value them, then you get the best out of them. You really get the best out of them. So I think
Yes.
for the leaders, that's very important. If they know, listen, because sometimes you're expecting things of people, let's say performance-wise, but during the night between yesterday and today, the man's wife, had fallen at home and she ended up in hospital. Nobody knows about it. But between yesterday and today, he had phone calls on the hospital, pitching up this morning, 8 o'clock for work, and he's looking down and not motivated. And you think as a leader, listen, he doesn't want to be here. But you don't know what's actually happening at home. So this is very important when we work with people. You have to have context and grace. That's actually the right word. You have to have grace with people and you have to love them, and then you have to have context. If you put yourself in those shoes, what would you have done? So it's a very real thing. It's a very real thing.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. Thank you. That's really, really amazing. Conflicts, they're inevitable in a team setting. There's a lot of conflicts on boats, especially between departments. I know that people listening know that the stewardesses and the engineers often get together because the stewardesses wreck everything and the engineers have to fix it. Within a team setting, how do you deal with these conflicts? What's your best approach to resolving a conflict if there are conflicts between two people on your team, for example?
Conflict is part of life, and you should have conflict. I think when it comes to team, again, there must be some kind of ground rules which we all abide to. So if there's a conflict situation, the vision and the ground rules of the captain would always be like a legislation, for instance. It's like a constitution that we always come back to and say, listen, but this is what we agree upon. So whatever is a personal matter, that's personal. But if your personal matters are impacting what the team is busy with, then you are becoming a liability for the team.
Yeah.
And again, this is where people have to understand the importance of team over the individual, meaning as a leader, you always look at what's best for the team. Not neglecting the individual, but the reality is when there's conflict, and let's say if it's team conflict, it's fine.
Yeah.
Concerning what's happening within the team, how you guys communicate, accountability, these kind of things. If you've been asked to do certain things by a certain time, it hasn't been done. Other team members actually have the right to keep that person accountable.
Yeah.
Because we all have been asked to do certain tasks. Now, if certain people do it and others don't, they are actually now they are disrespecting the team. They are disrespecting everyone when they do that. It's not just about them, not just doing their job. They're actually disrespecting the team and not honoring the very fact that they have the opportunity of being here. So you'll handle that conflict. And if it's conflict for the team, then in certain ways it's good because it strengthens the team.
Yep.
Right? But there has to be like I say, like a legislation, like a way of thinking and a vision that we all come back to. Listen, this is where we are after. This is what we are after. But if it's personal things, again, that's where leadership is important and experience, because the captain or the leader should come into a place there where he almost oversees this, almost like a fathering role, if I can put it like that, and say, okay, guys, okay, this has happened now. You've thrown him with a lemon while he was sleeping, and he didn't like you throwing him with a lemon. He feels disrespectful. He feels you're a racist. Okay, let's just settle down and take a chill pill and let's just get back to work.
Yeah. Take that sort of overthink.
Yeah, and you don't want to sweat the small stuff, So people nowadays, they really do make a fuss about everything. So we're living in quite trying times and difficult times, but this is where strong leaders are really supposed to stand up in love, but in strength. To say, listen, guys, we're not going to be fighting over minor issues.
Yeah.
Well, how much of the world is dying without food, etc., etc., etc. Now you want to fight about these minor issues. So context, experience for the leaders, I believe it's very important. The captains in those circumstances, they come in to calm things.
Yeah.
And
And not
then
take sides.
yes, and a lot of times when a situation explodes, after it calms down, you get context, you get the full picture.
Yeah.
And then you deal with it accordingly. So sometimes there has to be discipline, there has to be all these kind of things, correction, and then you deal with it.
Makes a lot of sense. And in yachting, we have setbacks. We have days when the boss is unhappy. We have days where everything goes wrong. We have days where the engines don't work. We have days so we have a lot of setbacks as well. But in sport, you would have had a few times where you really, really thought you were going to go and achieve something, and then it really hasn't happened and it's destroyed the team. How have you picked them back up after that kind of setback?
Yeah, look, I think I'll just use this example. Sport, there's a saying that goes around that say you're only as good as your last game.
Yeah.
Right. So we also used to say a lot of times that a week in test rugby is a very long time. So because you could play against the worst team on a Saturday, or let's rather say you can play the All Blacks on a Saturday and you can beat the All Blacks, and the next week, if you're not on song, you can lose against Italy or Japan, for that matter.
In Brighton,
it's a fact. So what it means is that, it's a competitive environment. And what you have on paper and what you've done in the past really doesn't matter, because it all matters what happens on the day. So I'll just use this example once. We were playing while I was still playing for the Bulls. We had a very good team in 2011, a very experienced team, but we had like a very up and down kind of season. So we were showing good signs, but then because a lot of our players were actually at the end of their careers.
Okay.
But then we played in New Zealand, and we were about to play against the Crusaders in Christchurch, but actually we were playing in a small town. And the whole week we had the best week of training. We had the very, very best week of training. And we also heard that one of their star players, Dan Carter, those of you that love rugby would know who he is, he got injured in the week. So then we felt like, listen, this is going to be because we haven't won them there ever. All right. Yeah. So we had this perfect build up, and we had this great prep week, and we felt like so confident going into that game because we did everything right. We had the perfect week. We had everything was working well. And then on the Saturday night, we pitched up there and we played, and we got beaten 29-0. 29-0. Like we didn't score even 1 point in 80 minutes after. So now you look at yourself, you're like, okay, we've got this team of World Cup winners, Springboks, some of the greatest players in the world. You had a great week of training. The opposing team wasn't even at their full strength, and you literally were beaten so badly. You like, so look, those things you have to face. You know, you have to face yourself in the mirror, and then you have to take a very deep look at your own performance. You have to look at, listen, did you as a person personally prepare well enough? And then the big thing is now as a team, you have to pull yourself out of this hole,
Yeah.
because next week is waiting for you, and it's not going to be an easy game again. So there's not going to be, nobody gives you a free victory. So for instance, another case also when we used to play for the Springboks, as I just started playing for the Springboks at a young age, we actually lost 5 games in a row
Wow.
when I started playing. So we started just before I got chosen. South Africa lost again. The Springboks lost against France in Cape Town. Then we went on tour. That's when I was chosen. Then we lost against. I made my debut and we lost 49-0, 49-0 as a Springbok team against Australia. The week after that, we lost like 19-17 or something against Australia. The week after that, we lost again against New Zealand quite far. Then we came back to South Africa. Then we lost against New Zealand again at Loftus. So now it's 5 games in a row. So just give you context. Every week you lose, the pressure becomes more and more. The public pressure, the public scrutiny. They call for players to be changed. They call for the coach to be fired every week that you lose. So the pressure becomes more and more. And especially in South Africa, it was a huge political thing also. So they put pressure on the coach to choose certain players of color. I mean, now we've moved on quite a bit from then. But the reality is, so the pressure that you are under, you can't explain, because you're under such public scrutiny, and you're giving everything. You're preparing well, you're planning, but things are not just working. They're not working. And then finally, we had our first victory after like 6 games. And then the relief that you have is just like, wow, you feel like you've won the World Cup, but you've basically just won. So what I want to say about all these things is, I think what's very important is you have to learn to give everything you can every single day. And a lot of the results that we want is beyond our control.
Yeah.
So the simple principle of just doing your best every single day, and as a team do your best. The rest is beyond your control. As a player, let's say as a player, because there's so much involved for in your circumstances, you know, regarding clients, requests,
Yeah.
weather, mechanic
Yes.
challenges, communication
Yeah.
requirements from clients. So these things are huge that you don't have control over, but you have control over your attitude, and you have control over your work ethic, and you
Sure.
have control over how you can work with other people.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Thank you very much. I want to talk to you about mentors. I've spoken to you in the past about mentors as well, and how I believe in mentorship fully, and how I think that everybody going through their life needs to be a mentor for somebody else. And I know that's big in your life as well. Did you have many mentors, or do you have a mentor now that you want to like dig into, and how they've influenced you to grow? And do you think that yacht captains should be doing that with certain members of teams? Or would you feel that that's singling people out in a group setting do you know what I mean? Or should they be looking for those people who are hungry to
Yeah.
improve?
I think mentoring is invaluable. I think you can't put a value on it. I
Yeah.
think it's very, very important. I wish actually I pursued mentors more as a
Yeah.
player. So what I would suggest is to the captains is remember, if you are the mentor, you can't pursue those you want to mentor. A
Yeah.
mentoring comes from the person that wants to be mentored. So, which is very important. So if your staff on deck, if they have a desire to grow and they have a
Yeah.
desire to learn, those are the ones, as if you are a leader, you can identify them and maybe sit with them to see where are their attitudes, in the sense of, are they open to receive from you? Because if they don't receive from you and they don't receive your help, you're basically going to waste your time. But what I would suggest to the staff on deck is, listen, pursue the captains and sit with them and draw as much experience as you can from them. Because they might just say one or two things that saves you, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars in your life through a single golden nugget of wisdom that you remember in a certain stage in your life, because it was a simple sentence that impacted you. So for example, myself now, I believe in mentoring. I believe in pursuing mentors.
Yeah.
Meaning, I believe you have to go search for them, and then if you have people of value in your life, then you have to value them. You have to put tremendous value on that relationship. You have to take care of that relationship. So mentors are always people that are ahead of you, and they are, and it would be wise to get a mentor that's quite far ahead of you. You know,
Yes.
you can get a person that's a mentor that's 5 years ahead of you, 5 years ahead of you, but you can get a mentor that's 20 or 30 years ahead of you. And
Yeah.
they can literally save you millions of dollars worth of pain through their advice, because
Yeah.
why? They've got experience. So for me now as a pastor, I draw tremendously on this, because I've got some life experience, but as a pastor, I'm still quite inexperienced. So there's a lot of things that I learned from mentors and leaders that I sit with and draw from, because they have got the experience, they've made the mistakes, and now I can just sit with them and talk and say,
Yep.
listen, and I literally sit with them like with a book and a pen. So we sit and we talk, and then I will go to them with all my questions and say, listen, this is what I have. And then we just talk. And then, the nuggets that they share, it really shapes you. It saves you a lot of money. It saves you time. It saves you embarrassment.
Yes.
All these things, right? So mentoring, I'm a huge, huge fan of that. I believe we should have it. You must look at people that inspire you, people that you want to be like, people
Yeah.
that you respect, and you draw from them. Like this, and this is with all aspects of life. So people that are happily married,
Yeah.
people that have a successful career, people that have been in it for a long time, meaning so they've been through the fire and through the storms, and they still standing. So you must get these people and draw from their wisdom,
Yeah.
and learn from them as much as you can.
I'm a massive believer in that as well. And as you know, there's mentors in my life that I don't think myself and my husband would be standing without, to be honest. So yeah, so
Right.
I do. I think within the structure of a yacht, you've got the captain and you've got the heads of department. Obviously, everybody needs to be accountable to each other and everybody must mentor each other. But I think what you've said about the pursuit is absolutely paramount to everything. You shouldn't be trying to change everybody's life. You should
Mm.
be letting the people who want more drive come to you, as it were, and identify it that way. Otherwise, I guess as a leader, you'd be stretched thin and you'd lose your heart to a lot of people because you get disappointed, don't you?
Yeah, and again, if you think about it, the best teams are teams that are self-motivated.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So, if you as a leader have to motivate your team, then you've got the wrong members on the team.
Brilliant. I like
So,
that.
so I believe you should encourage and motivate, but the reality is motivation should come from within, because then people should be self-motivated.
Yeah,
Because people that are self-motivated, they will become great successes because they just have that drive on the inside. So I think as a team, as a captain or as a team, you have to look out for those people also that are self-motivated.
Yes.
People that are great team players, because like I said in the beginning, sometimes you'll have a person that's probably less talented, but they've got greater other attributes that
Yeah,
will strengthen the team and cause the chemistry of the team and the vibe on deck to be a lot better. These kind of things.
absolutely.
So yeah, so I believe there should be room. You know, a healthy team also has room. There's space to breathe.
Yeah,
So because people have to understand what should be expected of them, but then there should be room.
yeah. Freedom of
So
expression almost.
yeah, there is accountability and the structure and all these things, but we want to have breathing space because
Yeah,
and that is actually what culture then is. Okay, listen, the breathing space is the in-betweens. And when it's the in-between, then after the in-between, we are back to business.
yeah,
You understand? So there's business and then there's like the in-between. So
yeah,
we know what is expected of us. And then the in-between is like, okay, because we do our job really well, we can, have great time together and these kind of things. So
yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you. So personal achievements matter to everybody, but so does the team success for sure. How did you balance your own personal ambitions with letting things go for the greater good of what was best for the team?
hmm. Yeah, that's a very good question. I think you should have personal goals. I
Yeah,
really do. Um, and then you should also know that sometimes they won't be achieved.
yeah,
And then, you work the two together. I believe you must have personal goals and keep them in the back of your mind and look at them, in a sense that these are the look, because you're only part of the deck or part of the yachting team for a short while. So it's really just a season.
yeah,
But when you are there, you should be honorable in what the team wants to achieve. So your personal goals, you should take care of and take heed to and plan according to these kind of things, whether it's financial or these kind of things.
yeah,
But then you have to understand, and when you become part of the team, they've got certain things set out that they want to achieve. And if you're a great team player, you're like, listen, um, I'm here to help.
yeah,
I want the team to achieve this.
definitely. I
So
get it.
and really it is like that. I mean, if you're gonna the team actually makes the individual better.
Sure.
So the team will actually help you in many cases achieve your personal successes.
Thank
Because
you.
if you're part of a winning team, it actually increases the value, your own value, because your teammates
Definitely.
make you better.
I think so too, and I think it does get lost quite often on yachts. The whole team aspect of it, it becomes
Mm.
almost departmentalized. So
Yeah.
this one's working almost against the other one sometimes. So having that bigger picture is something that can get lost, definitely. I'd love you to, if you don't mind, share an example of a time where you've led a team through a crisis, and what kind of lessons did you think were really important that you could draw from it?
Yeah, look, I think again, like I've shared just a while ago about
Yeah,
losing. I mean, those were in the early days of my career, and then there were days where I was captaining the team, and then you go into a season, a time of the season where things are just not clicking.
yeah,
Things are just not. It's not gelling. There's no, and and this is the irony. This is what you learn about team environments. So you have the players, you have the talent. We did the preparation. You have the belief, but things are not clicking. You don't know why. And if I have to be honest, if I look back now, I can identify the things that were the issues.
right.
And then it always comes down to it's things off the grid, meaning it's like off the ball stuff. It's like leadership or managerial. And that's why it really flows from the top down. A fish rots from the head, right? So you have to when the leadership is aligned and unified and sees the same thing and says the same thing, it flows down into the team.
Yeah.
And it's the same within a team. That's why division is such an ugly thing. So even if you speak about the biblical principle about division,
Yeah.
so like I say, where there's unity, God commands a blessing. So where there's unity within a marriage is blessed. Where there's unity within a team is blessed. Where there's unity within a business, it is blessed. Now, what is the plan of the enemy is to bring division. So when there's division, there can't be a unity. So division is two visions. That's what division is.
Yeah.
So if I look at difficult times during that teams, there was either a managerial thing or there was let's use an example. There was an individual who wasn't good for the team.
Yeah. The rotten apple.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that had a tremendous impact on the performance of the team. And then obviously that person has to leave.
Yeah. And how would you deal with it if they were a star player, but they were the rotten apple? Would that be something that you would easily make a decision over?
Remember, it comes down to the leader, or in your instance, I would say the captain.
Yeah.
Because he's the one that's going to have to deal with it all. So if the captain decides, no, I'm going to keep the star player, even though he's a bad apple, then that's his decision.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm not saying there's a right or wrong. So you can work with that. It's just going to be a little bit more dramatic and a little bit more conflict and recovery and all these kind of things.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
So it depends on what the leader wants. It really does. It really depends on what the leader wants. But if I had to look back, so those were the things, managerial things that were issues. Wrong players, meaning people with their own agendas, big egos. And then, so there's so many things that play a role within a team because there's people that push things to power, people that. So it can only
exactly
work.
the same with yachts.
Yeah, so it can only work if you have a strong leader at the top.
Yeah.
If they have a strong leader at the top that sets the tone and the order, and that's why I'm saying there has to be breathing space. There has to be strength, but there has to be breathing space.
Makes a lot of sense.
So people don't feel like they are in what's the word now. They have to feel like they are in this. They know what's expected of them, but they want to be here.
Yeah.
Without feeling like, listen, it's too intense and it's too much expected of us. If people feel that, they don't want to be part of that team.
If they're micromanaged, they feel like a lot of people feel they can't like work under a micromanagement. But at the same time, you want the best for the team. So striking that balance for the work to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to ask you a big question. Sorry.
Yeah.
Last one from me, and then I'm going to open it up to the floor to see if anybody else would like to ask any questions. What legacy do you hope to leave as a leader? I think when you are a leader, I think it's important. What is the legacy that you would like to leave as a leader?
No, look, I think that's a big question for all of us. You want to make an impact in people's lives. I think you want to be remembered as a person. I want to be remembered as a person that really loved people, that really encouraged people, and that really stood for God. I think, and this is part of my testimony and what I'm doing now. Somebody that lived for Christ, that built the church, that loved people, like I say. So, and then obviously it's important what people remember you for, but I think what's more important is what your own family, remember you for. You remember? So, you understand? So my wife, my children, that's a very important thing for me. What my personal family thinks of me. I think every person has a desire to make a difference in the world, to make a change in the world, to leave. And that's why I'm saying everybody has that opportunity. We have the power of choice. We can do it. We can make a difference in one person's life. You can make a difference and be a blessing to somebody. but I really just like my life only changed and only started to make sense when I became a born again Christian. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I was raised in a Christian home, but I never lived for God. Like I lived for myself. And then
Yeah.
I just reached a place where I couldn't live like this anymore. I was so condemned, and my conscience, ate me up, and
Yeah.
I had no purpose in my life. And then I came to a place. A friend of mine invited me to church, and I just surrendered my life to Christ. I gave my life to Jesus. I said, "Listen, I don't want to go on like this." And then my whole life changed, and that was when I was still a young man. I was 20 years old, and then my whole rugby career was in front of me. But that gave me purpose. So if I can encourage people, I want to say to you that God loves you. God really loves you. I don't know what's your religious view, but it's okay because Jesus loves you, and there's no condemnation, and you have a great future ahead of you. You can have hope for the future. You can make a difference in the lives of people, and I just want to encourage all of you in this journey. I mean, that if you love people and care for them, you'll always do well if you really care for people. People will always speak well of you, they will respect you, and they would want to work with you. So, yeah, that is my final word of advice.
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. Guys, that's on the call. I would love if anybody's got any questions, feel free to put up your hand. You haven't got video access, but does anybody want to ask a question to Pastor Pierce Spies while we have him on the line? Feel free to put up your hand. I have got one hand up already. Ivana, did you want to say something? No. Gabriella Greenfield, do you want to speak up?
Yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear me though.
Yes, can hear you. Go for it.
Okay, perfect. First I'm using Zoom. So I've got a question then. Obviously, he's been now just a normal rugby player, and then he's also been a captain. And you've spoken about coming from like a leader's point of view and dealing with your team. Now, what happens when you are part of the team and a problem stems from your captain or from the managerial point of view, and how did he deal with very bad managers and very bad captains if he ever had one?
Good question, Gabriella.
Yeah, it's a very good question. The reality is you can't do much. Look, it also depends on, like I said, I think your seasons are like 1 year, right? How long is
Yeah.
the season?
We have like 2 seasons broken up throughout the year, but
Mm.
say a year, yeah, give it a year, definitely.
So look, you can't, let's say as a player, you can't do much about it. You can, because you're basically under the leadership of your manager or under your captain. So there's not much you can do, and you're actually totally reliant on their way of managing people and planning and work ethic and all these things. So, but what you do have control over, and this is what I would suggest, is you have control over your own work ethic, your own performance, and over your own attitude, which is a very important thing. So there are certain things that you can't control, which has an impact on you surrounding you. But what you should control is what you have control over, and you must do that really well. And like I say, a year is so quick. If that year doesn't work well, you have the opportunity to move to another deck, move to another captain.
Yeah.
You don't have to stay there. So you can learn from that, and then obviously as time goes on, you talk to people and say, listen, okay, but what's the working environment? How are you guys performing, etc., etc. Then people will talk and say, listen, but things are going really well here. It's a great place to work, etc., etc. So this is the principle about actually the principle of sowing and reaping. So if a captain or a manager sows the wrong seeds, meaning they're not taking care of their staff, they're not planning well, they're not prepared, they themselves have not good attitudes, they're sowing bad seeds continually, and that harvest comes out of their staff.
Yeah.
You understand? So if a manager or a leader are not doing their job really well, you cannot do anything about it as a person that works for them. You can only control your own performance and your own planning and your own attitude. And I believe that's part of life. that you have to go through these seasons, that you work for a person that is actually oppressive or a person that's abusive. I'm saying abusive in the sense, look, if they are legally abusive, they have to go to jail. But the reality is, it's good to work for a person like that because they test your character.
Sure.
They test your character and they actually develop your character. But it's not good to be there your whole life. Just be, if that is how it is for one season, and you take it and you go on to the next one.
Does that help, Gabriella?
Yes, it does. It does help quite a bit because I'm at my year end now. So
yeah,
Okay.
I think it's I think like sort of going with what Pastor says, it's almost like you have to stand under that authority and respect the authority that's on board. But if it's not right for you, it's not right for you. So don't kick against the authority, as it were, but rather learn from where you won't be doing the same sort of thing, if that makes sense.
no, it definitely does. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much thank you, Gabriella. Ted and Thomas, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. I just want to understand what is the difference between mentoring and micromanagement, because when you try to mentor someone, it's
Yeah.
it's been considered as micromanagement in many cases. So how we can differentiate between these two?
Okay.
Between mentorship and micromanagement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I believe true mentorship has to come from the one who's being mentored, pursuing the mentor.
Yeah.
Micromanagement is something else. So management is something else. So like you say, I mean, it's a person that's basically on your case concerning certain requirements. Okay, so that's what I believe micromanagement is, which in a certain sense can be good for you because it can put you under a good pressure to perform, but it can also be something that takes away your liberty and your joy, if I can put it like that. So that's why I'm saying you want breathing space for a person to actually, to become all that they can be. So, to come back to mentoring, I believe, like I said, a mentor should not be the person that pursues the one he's mentoring. Because the one who's being mentored should realize the value and make the effort to go to a person. Because there has to be like some kind of price that you pay to value that which that person is going to give to you, the knowledge and the experience it gives to you, right? So that's the difference that I would say between mentoring, and that's my definition of it.
Definitely.
I believe mentoring, look, and also like mentoring, you can have like a business mentor that actually sits with you, that you have a relationship with, that can, scan through your business, and they can, in certain ways, they can do micromanaging. So I think, it can be the same, but like, mentoring, I believe, in a certain way is also sometimes applied from more of a distance and big picture, and and micromanagement is a lot more detailed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Has anybody else got any questions? I don't see any other hands as yet. So I just want to thank you really, Pastor. I want to just say from today, like, I mean, you and I have spoken before, so I've got a lot of information from her.
I think there's one or two more.
Is it? Oh no, we got some come-ups. Yes, Lauren, tell us what you've got to ask. Sorry.
Hi, it's great. There's a few of us here listening here. But, can you hear
Lauren,
us?
did you have, yeah, I can. I was just looking for the hand. Sorry. Lauren, did you have a question? Carrie.
So yeah, this is Greg here actually, but just on Lauren's link.
Oh, sorry.
There's a few of us here.
Hi all on Lauren's link.
Thanks very much. Yeah, just a question actually regarding your pastor sort of side of things. Obviously in yachting, there's a variety of backgrounds and people's beliefs. Myself as well, I've had a large influence the last few years for the teachings of Christ. But it's kind of like sharing that with crew. I sort of talk towards like the teachings being like the Sermon of the Mount about love, kindness, compassion. I think these are pretty solid teachings for individuals, but also for crew members. But obviously, like I would like to sort of like, you know, teach it in a way that was more Christ focused, but obviously we have, you know, you can have Islamic people, atheists, all kinds. What would your advice be as a leader and also as a Christian in terms of sharing that message?
Yeah, it's a very good question. You know, and it's something that we respect. You know, we respect people and we respect their beliefs. And like, but as you say, like as a Christian, you have this desire to share with people, you know, what Christ has done for you. I would suggest, firstly, when it comes to your team and yourself, the way you treat people and the way you do your work is always your greatest testimony. All right. So if you do your work really well, the way you treat people, that is your greatest message. And then what I would suggest is if you have the opportunity, maybe once a week, you open up an opportunity and an invitation and ask the team, listen, if they would like to join you for a meeting where maybe you can share one or two messages and you can see how people willingly respond to it. Because remember, people are facing things and people are really, a lot of times they are in a hopeless situation. So people they don't want a religious talk. People need encouragement and they need hope. And that's why I'm saying a lot of times we don't know what people deal with behind closed doors. So I would suggest, firstly, you do your job really well. A lot of those principles, like you said, from the Sermon on the Mount, all these kind of things are biblical principles, are great principles for success, team building, love, respect, honor, all these kind of things that you can do like in your day-to-day management. And then I would suggest, like, if you have that desire, you can speak to the team, whoever willingly wants to come and, you know, sit and join, because you want to share maybe a story or your testimony of what, you know, whatever, and then you take it from there and see how it develops.
Thanks very much. That's great. That's perfect. And yeah, we're kind of in the process of doing something similar with another crew member.
Right.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think through actions, not words, is kind of
Right.
the way to go. Thank you very much.
Sure, pleasure.
Question. Phil, you've got your hand up, but you're on mute. Phil?
Yeah. Hi. I just wanted to ask, how can senior team members or leaders or departmental leaders, say, develop the leadership potential of the junior members of that department who might not have the opportunity to practice any kind of leadership skills before they get into that position where they need to be the one in charge?
Oh, very good. I think
Great
you have to
question.
be, intentional, and I think you have to be proactive. So I would, if I were you, I would plan and schedule, you know, certain meetings where you would open it up again for people to say, listen, you're going to do a leadership training session, and you see who responds. Because if people have a desire to learn, they will come.
Yeah.
You can also obviously identify certain people that you believe can do it, but you know how it works with sometimes the people that you sometimes believe in are not usually the ones that, you know, bring the fruit to the table. So you get somebody that have a lot less talent, but they have a greater desire to learn. And those are the people that usually go further. So I would say open it up maybe once a week. Say, listen, you're going to do leadership training concerning deck management or whatever. And then you see who responds. And then you take it from there. Because the other thing is also you can't waste your energy on people that don't want to learn.
Yes.
So you have to manage that. So people that do want to learn, people that's on a journey of growth, they will always come and sit and, you know, inquire. And those are the people then that you work with.
Great, thank you.
Thank
Right.
you. Is there anybody else before I leap off again? Anybody else want to put their hands up? Yeah, I think it's very true what you're saying as well. Like, the pursuit is what is key in leadership, I think, because you get hurt, don't you, when the people you believe in don't necessarily want to give back. So it's a massive pointer.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
definitely. I just want to round off and just say I've taken a lot from today. We've spoken previously, and you know my thoughts on mentorship as it is, but establishing a vision, a culture on board, getting the variety together, setting out goals, and seeing the good in people, but having that structure of flexibility and movement in a team is good. And I guess it's just you have to learn from your mistakes and grow with the team you've got. Pastor Pierre, I just want to thank you so much for your time today. I really do. I know you're a very busy man and you've got a lot on your plates, and I've taken a wealth out of what we've learned today, and I just really want to say thank you very much. And I will see you soon, but thank you for your time, and thank you everybody else who's joined us. I hope there's things that were taken out of it for everyone, and you can get hold of me. You've got our email address, so if anybody's got any further questions, they can give me a shout. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Pastor.
To the
Thank
next
you,
one.
everyone. Thanks for
Thank
the
you.
opportunity.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
day.
Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. Bye bye.